In 2003, BioWare released what I personally believe is the best Star Wars game of all time, but also one of the best RPGs, known as Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. Then you fast forward to 2006, and we get this new IP that you may have heard about by this point in time called Mass Effect, and it blew everyone's socks off who owned an Xbox 360 at the time. Then we hop into 2010, where we get the sequel, Mass Effect 2. The commonality amongst all three of these games is none other than the writer in the lead position or senior position, Drew Karpyshyn. Interestingly, Drew Karpyshyn eventually left BioWare, but then rejoined later on for a new IP. That new IP was known as Anthem, and before it had released, this was an encouraging sign because Drew Karpyshyn had such a fantastic body of work. However, when we got the game, we learned it really wasn't good at all. And in fact, the writing was one of the sore spots. Character development was poor. Story uninteresting. The world completely unrealized. There was so much left on the table with Anthem. And it was there that we learned one valuable lesson. Writers not in lead positions, for better or for worse, are not magicians. So in the case of Drew Karpyshyn, who had a fantastic body of work and has developed some of the best stories I've personally experienced, he really couldn't do anything about Anthem, and that much was clear when he had confirmed he was not in a senior or lead writing position. At the start of 2020, I made a video called The Scary Reality of Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic Remake. And in that video, while some said I was fear-mongering, a lot of people agreed that based off reports that were coming in, that it seemed like when KOTOR returned, which was more than guaranteed at that point in time, it was a matter of when, that when it did happen, things would likely be different. It would not be the KOTOR that, like you and I, we grew up with. Things were going to change. And so there's been a lot of buzz floating around the community, and I apologize for taking a number of days to get around to it, but the reason I waited is because of two things. Number one, I just wanted to enjoy being a fan for a little bit. I've waited for this moment for so long. I just wanted to be excited, right? I constantly stop my excitement short, which I think is a good thing to do my job properly, but I wanted to just enjoy that this game actually exists. But number two is I wanted to do my research. I wanted to take a deeper dive and see if the internet was having a knee-jerk reaction, what was going on. For those who aren't caught up, there's a lot of fear right now that the writing for Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic Remake coming from Aspyr Media will be less than competent. And also, the worry is seeping in now of what I talked about at the beginning of 2020, which is, oh God, they may change things. Now, what we're going to do here, and very infrequently do I have to request this of my audience because my watch time is pretty high and I can tell by the comments, a lot of you do watch the whole thing. I will request that you do sit through this whole thing as we sift through a lot of information and discuss the status of writing for Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. Because what speaks to me more than anything is, one, passion, but two, your body of work. How talented are you? So a lot of the worry was spawned from one single writer being included in this game's production. But what I want to do is look at the body of writers, the team of writers that is currently working on Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic Remake, the games they have worked on, and see exactly should we be worried or not based off what they have written in the past. That's personally my approach to things. I know a lot of people are hung up on, is this person an asshole or not? The reality is with the games industry is a lot of people are shitty here. Just a lot of people are also really good at hiding it. That's not a vote of support, however. It's just I'm not surprised anymore about anyone who gets hired in this industry. And so I'm just going to focus my attention on what body of work is there for the people working at Aspyr Media. Where this all started was with one writer who announced that they were working on the game by the name of Sam Maggs. And from there, people had latched onto a number of old tweets, which one of them had said, "Isn't KOTOR your favorite?" No. Now, immediately I noticed this little line above her portrait and thought to myself, well, I do wonder if there's more to this. Context is important here because, as I said just a couple of minutes ago, one of the leading things, especially for a remake, is passion. And so I went and I saw that it was pretty clear she was being sarcastic. So this led me down the rabbit hole even further. I was like, now it's even more important because I want to see what is the body of work of all the Aspyr Media writers right now, especially, as I mentioned with Drew Karpyshyn and many other examples throughout the industry, who is the lead writer? Who is at the helm of all this, guiding the experience? And of course, the big question being with KOTOR Remake is, why do we need writers? Well, we're going to go through all of that. So let's start off at the top of the food chain with the lead writer, who, through some digging I learned on LinkedIn, is Courtney Woods. Now, Courtney Woods, according to her LinkedIn profile, worked with BioWare for 8 years, where she worked on Star Wars The Old Republic Knights of the Fallen Empire as a writer, which is one of the best expansions that the game ever saw. She also worked on Dragon Age Inquisition The Descent. I'm a little biased here. I remember playing Dragon Age Inquisition The Descent and very much enjoying it. It brought me back to Origins in a lot of way. I thought it was focused compared to what we saw in Dragon Age Inquisition, which was very scattered. And so overall, it was one of my favorite DLCs in the package, but not everyone was crazy about it. And then, of course, there is Mass Effect Andromeda, which, you know, we know how that one went. That was one of the worst written BioWare games right next to Anthem. But this is the person in the lead role. And honestly, knowing that they've worked extensively with the Old Republic, and especially Knights of the Fallen Empire, which I thought was really good, and I've heard extremely good things from the community response of it, on top of also writing for The Descent, which I thought was very good, I'm actually feeling pretty encouraged on the lead writing front, who is guiding this experience and who will undoubtedly have the most impact on this project amongst anyone else. But I also did a little bit more digging on beyond her, who was the team. We have Jessica Slewinsky, who is a senior writer at Aspyr Media. She had written for Wicked Realm Games. She also worked at Tilting Point for games like Star Wars Krusty Cook-Off, and a lot of her work came from being a lead narrative designer at Disruptor Beam, where she worked on Game of Thrones Ascent, Star Trek Timelines, The Walking Dead March to War, and Archer Danger Phone, prior to it being acquired by East Side Games. And you'll see on screen here that each and every single one of these games are mobile games. And of course, as you and I are big fans of role-playing games, for me, what's not encouraging is someone's body of work being primarily mobile games. That's like really jumping into the frying pan with this one when you go from mobile games, no disrespect, sorry, but mobile games, to a AAA RPG of one of the most legendary tales told. Then I also found a contracted writer, Nicole Stanford, who has, I thought, a more encouraging body of work, although recently entering the games industry. She had worked for Hardsuit Labs for a number of years on Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, which was shaping up pretty well until Hardsuit Labs completely got shuttered. Then there was Hexagram, and now she is on a contract to write for Knights of the Old Republic Remake, and this was one that ultimately I didn't find too worrying because, again, I'm seeing RPGs in the body of work there. Also, I should just throw in there, while it has really no jurisdiction on my personal feelings right now, I have heard from sources there are a number of other BioWare writers working on this game. The reason I couldn't go in there and confirm that is because a lot of the folks working at Aspyr have everything locked down, from social media to even LinkedIn profiles. I wasn't trying to be creepy here, but I was trying to get the information to get a better picture of like who is working on this game, where we can see and feel out, should we be confident in the people making potential changes to the franchise. And this was mainly all I could unearth. As for the woman of the hour, the person working on this game that really caused the spark for this whole conversation, Sam Maggs, her largest body of work came from Insomniac Games, where she had worked as lead writer for a while on Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. Now, this is just my personal opinion. This game reviewed very well. A lot of people like the story for it. I did not enjoy it as much as previous Ratchet & Clank games. I found 2016 to be a lot more enjoyable, and one of those reasons was the story didn't feel as heartfelt. The other example of work for her is a character in Anthem, and obviously we've talked about it a lot in this video, but Anthem isn't the best representation of your work. So it's really a 50-50 here. There were two folks that I saw and went, okay, cool, and there were two that I saw with their body work and went, I think the most important thing to take away before moving on is the woman in the lead position has a solid body of work. But beyond that, let's talk about what Aspyr is saying when it comes to KOTOR Remake. How true to the original do they want to be? What is their wording, and what should the expectation be? That's what I want to talk about in the second part of this video. So in the PlayStation blog, I want to highlight 3 particular sections that I've screen capped for all of you. A pinnacle of Star Wars legend storytelling, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic is set over 4,000 years before the events of the original trilogy and introduced a new story of new heroes and villains in an epic struggle for the fate of the galaxy. The team here at Aspyr and Sony Interactive Entertainment have joined forces with Lucasfilm Games to bring you a remake of this classic Star Wars adventure. We're rebuilding one of the greatest RPGs of all time for a new generation with modern tech, features, visuals, and more, while maintaining the integrity of the story and characters that we've come to cherish. Then in the next clip, with Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic Remake, our hope is to give both series newcomers and long-term fans an experience that can live alongside the very best modern releases. We're rebuilding it from the ground up with the latest tech to match the groundbreaking standard of innovation established by the original, all while staying true to its revered story. And then, to cap off this article, they say again in the PlayStation blog, so what's next? Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic Remake is a tremendous undertaking encompassing almost every aspect of the original game. We're still early in development, but we're happy to finally have announced the remake and hear the PlayStation community's thoughts on what you're excited to hear. So what we have here is a situation of Aspyr publicly saying multiple times and emphasizing, we are going to stay true to the original. So that is the expectation that is set for me, for everyone. That is what I'm expecting. I want to go in there and have maybe a couple of things change, maybe the pacing change, but beyond that, I'm expecting the original story to be told to me from this point moving forward. Anything betraying that will probably have me upset, because it's not me assuming. You've said it 3 different times. You wish to maintain the integrity of the original story told. The other takeaway, this one more subjective because it's my opinion, is the woman in the lead position I don't think is overall that concerning. But of course, it's a team effort, and there will be influence felt here, where I understand some people being skeptical because, again, the body of work is not really convincing on some ends. So for me, where do I sit right now? I'm hesitantly expecting something kind of like a Final Fantasy VII Remake situation. I already know the gameplay will be different. That's okay with me. The story, however, in Final Fantasy VII Remake, without spoiling anything, was vastly different. And as someone who didn't have a ton of nostalgia for the game, I had played it for the first time in 2012. I was cool with how they told the story, but I get it how some people who are old-time fans are like, whoa, what is this? My worry is with Knights of the Old Republic Remake, they will take that route, because I could totally see that being a big inspiration for them. Here's the thing, though. None of us here are fools. At the end of the day, I know for a fact that Aspyr would not come out and say, day one of announcement, we're changing things, because that would be a PR disaster. What else do you expect them to say? The other thing that really has me buckled to my seat is that they're hiring writers. They're contracting writers. And when you look at Knights of the Old Republic, out of everything that's making it age poorly, it is not the story. No one wants the story updated. No one wants it changed. I'm open to some new side quests, some new content being added in, opening up the world some more to embrace modern tech. Totally okay with that. But the main arc, that does not need changing, and it's the reason people demanded a remake, and it's the reason people wanted to re-experience that. So I can only hope that when they say honor the integrity, they truly mean it, because it would be disastrous to go in a completely opposite direction after saying that. I personally sit in a cautious area. I am hyped for the game. I think you could do 2 things at once. I am hyped that it exists. I'm hyped that we're going to get to play a remake of my favorite game of all time. But I'm also a little bit worried about the talent working on it. Of course, there is the situation of some people on that talent being incendiary. And then beyond that, I'm really more than anything just worried with what the body of work is. And I think that's what speaks more than anything. But also, I just wanted to tack on once more that I don't think writers are magicians. So one bad writer's inclusion will not ruin an entire game. One good writer's inclusion will not fix an entire game. So that's where I stand on it. It's been a week of relatively unpopular uploads for me. And so hopefully the streak can come to an end. We'll see. But I wanted to share my thoughts on this after I've given it some thought. And I hope people can respect that I'm not trying to lead a witch hunt here. That's not the goal of this video. It's to be critical of the workload. But other than that, that's all I've got to say on Knights of the Old Republic Remake. I'll talk to all of you very soon. Peace out.